Before we unlock the invisible infrastructure of the legal system today, we really have to give a massive shout out to the folks making this deep dive possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, our local business sponsor is 337 Media.
That's right. If you were looking for the engine behind successful Acadiana brands, that is 337 Media.
They really do it all. Building beautiful websites, mastering local SEO. Basically, if you want your business to be seen and actually found online, these are the people you call.
Right. Visibility is everything.
Exactly. So please support the companies that support us. You can find their link right in the description. So diving in, I want you to picture the justice system for a second. Just close your eyes and picture it.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Marble columns, maybe a judge with a gavel, a jury box.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the movie version. But I want to talk about the machinery underneath that, the logistics.
The unglamorous part.
Exactly. Because you can have the best lawsuit in the world, the most expensive lawyer, and the righteous truth completely on your side. But if one specific logistical gear fails, the entire thing collapses before you even step foot in a courtroom.
Yeah, you are talking about the invisible infrastructure of justice.
I am. We are doing a deep dive into the world of process service today, specifically focusing on the really high-stakes environment of New Orleans and Lafayette.
It's a fascinating area.
It really is. We've gone through the operational notes and data from Lafayette Process Servers, LLC to try and understand this. And honestly, it's terrifying how fragile the system is.
Well, it is fragile because it relies on strict adherence to procedure. I mean, most people think a process server is just a delivery driver with a subpoena.
Right, like ordering a pizza or something.
Exactly. They think you pay a fee, a guy shows up, hands over a box, and leaves.
But if the pizza guy drops a pepperoni on the wrong porch, you just get a refund. If a process server drops a subpoena on the wrong porch, you could lose your house. Or your lawsuit gets dismissed with prejudice.
Precisely. And that brings us to the first massive distinction we need to make today. We need to clear up the Hollywood image immediately. Process servers are not law enforcement. They're not cops.
And they aren't attorneys either.
No, not at all. They are court-appointed officials. In Louisiana, they operate under a very specific statute, Article 1293 of the Code of Civil Procedure.
Article 1293.
Right. That number, 1293, is essentially their badge. It gives them the authority to effect service, but it also handcuffs them to the civil law.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning they can't kick down doors, they can't arrest people. They are the physical link between the abstract authority of the court and the reality of the street.
The reality of the street, that is a perfect transition because this is where the deep dive gets really interesting for me. I was fascinated by this concept in the sources, this thing called the diamond map.
The diamond map. It sounds like pirate treasure, doesn't it?
It really does. But it's actually about how geography creates a legal minefield. We tend to think laws are universal. Like if I'm in Louisiana, the law is the law.
Sure, that makes intuitive sense.
Right. But what we found in this analysis is that in the greater New Orleans area, crossing a street, literally stepping over a parish line, changes the rulebook entirely.
It's almost feudal. You have these different fiefdoms, Orleans Parish, Jefferson Parish, St. Bernard, and each one interprets the logistics of service differently. Let's actually zoom in on Orleans Parish for a second, specifically First City Court.
Okay, let's do it. So say I'm a landlord in New Orleans proper. I have a tenant who hasn't paid rent in 3 months. I want them out.
The very common scenario.
Right. I type up a notice, I drive over, they aren't home, so I just tape it to the door. Standard procedure, right.
And you have just lost your case.
Wait, just like that, because I used tape.
Because you engaged in tacking without the proper legal foundation. In First City Court, judges are incredibly strict about due process. The logic they use is, how do we actually know the wind didn't blow that paper away? How do we know a neighbor didn't rip it down as a joke?
Oh, I see.
Yeah. If you simply tack a notice to a door in Orleans Parish and your lease agreement doesn't have a specific concrete provision explicitly allowing for that method of service, the court will very likely reject it.
So the judge looks at it and says, I don't care that they haven't paid rent.
Yeah.
You didn't tell them properly, case dismissed.
Correct. And think about the sheer cost of that. You don't just lose the $50 filing fee. You have to restart the entire 5-day notice period.
Oh, man.
You have to refile. You're waiting another 3 to 4 weeks for a court date. That is another whole month of lost rent, all because you didn't understand the geography of the First City Court.
That is brutal. Okay, so that's Orleans. Now, let's say I cross a parish line into Metairie or Kenner. I'm in Jefferson Parish now.
Same rules.
Completely different nightmare.
Oh, great. In Jefferson Parish, You are dealing with the justice of the peace courts. Yeah. The GP courts. Here, the issue isn't usually the tacking part. It's the intake window.
The intake window. This sounds like bureaucracy at its finest. What exactly is an intake window?
It's exactly what it sounds like, unfortunately. These courts often operate with very specific, very narrow windows of time for accepting filings, especially for summons and temporary restraining orders.
Temporary restraining orders, so TRO, so you can't just walk in at 3 in the afternoon and expect to get a stamp?
Not necessarily. If the window closes at 11 in the morning, or say they have a specific procedure where the clerk only reviews filings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you show up at the wrong time, you are turned away.
And if I have a statute of limitations expiring that exact day?
Then you are in significant trouble. Your case might be dead on arrival.
Wow.
This is why the diamond map concept is so vital. A professional process server isn't just a driver. They are a navigator of these local idiosyncrasies.
They know the quirks.
Exactly. They know that in Orleans, you check the lease for the tacking clause. In Jefferson, you check your watch for the intake window. If you treat the map as uniform, you fail.
It really highlights that standard delivery doesn't exist here. You can't just hire a courier app to do this. You need someone who knows the terrain inside and out. But, knowing the terrain is only half the battle. You also have to deal with the people on the terrain.
Ah, yes, the human element.
The human element who really, really doesn't want to see you. We need to talk about the cat and mouse game. The evasive defendant.
This is definitely the part of the job that feels the most adversarial. You have a defendant who knows a lawsuit is coming. They know that if they don't physically receive that paper, the lawsuit can't proceed. So they go dark.
They ghost entirely. They start answering the door, they park their car down the block, they keep the blinds closed all day.
Exactly. And this causes a massive bottleneck. The court simply cannot move forward without service of process. It's a constitutional requirement. You have the fundamental right to know you're being sued.
Yeah.
If the defendant can successfully hide, they can indefinitely delay justice.
So what's the countermove then? If I'm a lawyer and my guy is hiding, what do I actually do?
You have to move from delivery to investigation. This is where skip tracing comes in.
Skip tracing. It's a very cool term, but let's be super clear about what it is and isn't. Because I feel like people hear that and think, oh, I can hire these guys to find out where my ex-girlfriend is living now.
Absolutely not. And that is a hard line in the industry.
I figured.
Legitimate process servers, like the team at Lafayette Process Servers, operate under strict ethical and legal boundaries. Skip tracing is only performed for the purpose of serving court documents.
Got it.
They aren't private investigators for the general public's curiosity. They're locating a specific target to fulfill a court mandate.
So no creeping, just legal locating. How does it actually work in practice?
It's mostly data analysis. They look for new utility hookups, change of address forms, credit header data, basically digital footprints that show where a person has actually moved.
Like leaving a breadcrumb trail.
Exactly. Maybe they left their house in New Orleans and are crashing at a friend's place in Slidell. The skip trace finds that new address.
Okay, so the computer finds the address, but the guy is still hiding behind the door. He sees a strange car outside. He's not coming out. What's the physical solution to that?
The stakeout.
Yes. This is the part that sounds straight out of a movie, but I imagine the reality is a lot less glamorous.
It is significantly less glamorous. It is essentially weaponized patience.
Weaponized patience, I love that.
A server sits in a nondescript vehicle, not a marked car, watching a specific exit point for hours. They study the patterns. When does the dog get walked? When does the trash go out?
They are literally just waiting for that one mistake.
They're waiting for the threshold?
Yeah.
The exact moment the subject steps onto public property or even opens the door wide enough to accept an object, the service can be executed. It's a game of inches at that point.
There was a story in the analysis that I thought perfectly captured this pressure. It was from a law firm contact, a guy named Mike D.
Ah, yes. The Mike D case. I remember that one.
Picture Mike's situation. He's got a client in Metairie. The defendant has been dodging the sheriff for weeks. The client is furious because the case is completely stalled. Mike is running out of time, and he's tried everything.
And this is surprisingly common. Sheriffs are overworked. They will go to a house, knock, get no answer, leave a card on the door, and move on.
Because they have 100 other things to do.
Right. They don't have the resources to sit in an unmarked car for 6 hours.
So Mike calls in the specialists. They run a skip trace. They find out the guy isn't at home at all. He started a brand new job at a construction site 3 parishes over.
That's a key detail, too. People who are hiding often change their daily routine entirely.
So they don't even go to the house. They go straight to the job site. They catch him right on his lunch break. Boom. Served.
Mission accomplished.
Mike D described it as flawless communication, but I honestly think that downplays the save. They literally saved the case from purgatory.
That is the difference between attempting service and effecting service. The sheriff attempts. A specialized process server effects. They use intelligence and surveillance to force the legal timeline to continue.
It's amazing how much effort goes into just handing someone a single piece of paper. But it's not always about chasing bad guys, is it? Sometimes it's just about navigating a maze of bureaucracy.
Correct. A huge portion of this work involves the subpoena ducis tecum.
Subpoena ducis tecum. It sounds like a spell from Harry Potter. What does it actually mean for the rest of us?
It's Latin for you shall bring with you. It's a subpoena that commands a witness not just to appear in court, but to produce documents, medical records, bank statements, employment history.
Honestly, this seems harder than serving a person. You can't exactly stake out an entire hospital.
No, and you can't just walk into the ER and hand a subpoena to a random triage nurse.
I would assume not.
Large institutions, banks, hospitals, corporate headquarters, they are fortresses of red tape. They have privacy officers, legal departments, and incredibly strict protocols on who can legally accept a subpoena.
So if you hand it to the wrong receptionist,
It's completely invalid. The institution will just ignore it. And suddenly, your court date arrives, and you don't have the medical records you desperately need to prove your injury case.
that's a disaster.
It is. A professional server knows exactly who the registered agent for the hospital is. They know you have to go to the legal department on the 4th floor, not the front desk. They know the specific hours of the records custodian at that specific bank branch.
Again, it's that invisible map. Knowing the internal geography of a corporation is just as important as knowing the geography of the parish itself.
Absolutely.
And speaking of geography, let's talk about the race against the clock, the court runner.
The unsung hero of the legal world.
It sounds so simple. Take this document, go to the courthouse, file it. Why is this considered a specialized skill?
Because of the strict deadlines and the physical logistics involved. Let's look at the Civil District Court, the CDC, or the 24th Judicial District Court, the 24th JDC. Filing deadlines are hard stops. If the clerk's window closes at 4 in the afternoon and you arrive at 4:01, your motion is simply not filed.
And if that motion was a statute of limitations filing,
Then your case is dead. Permanently over. The court runner is the person who actually knows the traffic patterns on the Crescent City Connection Bridge at 3:30.
the local knowledge.
Right. They know which security line at the courthouse moves faster. They are the ones physically sprinting to the clerk's desk to get that timestamp before the window slams shut.
It's stressful just thinking about it, to be honest. If we talk about evictions, evasive defendants, corporate subpoenas, deadline running, it's a massive menu of services.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does. But here's the question I think every listener has right now. If I am a lawyer or a landlord, and I am handing over these incredibly sensitive, time-critical documents, how do I actually know I can trust these people?
That is the ultimate question. Trust in this industry isn't just about whether they are nice people. It's about verification. When we analyzed Lafayette process servers, 2 specific things stood out regarding trust.
The credential.
Yes. They are a BBB A+ rated accredited business. That isn't just a badge you buy on the internet. It implies a proven track record of resolving issues and maintaining very high operational standards. They are also embedded in the local chambers of commerce for both New Orleans and Jefferson Parish.
So they aren't fly-by-night operations. They are part of the actual business fabric.
Exactly. But the far more important trust factor is the product they actually deliver. And the product isn't the delivery itself, it's the affidavit.
The ironclad affidavit, I see that term used a lot in the sources. Why is the affidavit more important than the actual physical delivery?
Because the delivery simply doesn't matter if you can't prove to a judge that it happened. The affidavit is the sworn legal document filed with the court that says, I served this person at this location at this time, and here's exactly how I identified them.
And I'm guessing defense attorneys love to poke holes in these things.
It is their favorite target. If a defense attorney can find a typo in the address, or an ambiguity in the time of service, or if the physical description of the person served is too vague, they will move to quash service.
Quash service. That sounds pretty final.
It means the service is thrown out.
Yeah.
Everything rewinds. An ironclad affidavit is one that is written so precisely, with such clear detail and strict adherence to the civil code, that a defense attorney looks at it and says, I can't beat this.
Wow.
That is what you are paying for. You are paying for the shield that protects your case from being dismissed on a technicality.
That makes total sense. You aren't paying for a courier, you're paying for evidence.
You are paying for certainty.
And while we focused heavily on New Orleans and Metairie today, the scope here is pretty wide, right?
It is. They cover the entire metro area. St. Bernard Parish, places like Violet and Chalmette, St. Tammany Parish on the North Shore. The diamond map extends pretty far, and the rules change in every single one of those jurisdictions.
So let's wrap this up. When we started, I said this was the invisible infrastructure of justice. I think we've thoroughly proven that.
I think so too. Successful litigation isn't just about brilliant legal arguments or knowing the case law. It is equally about logistics.
Yeah.
It's about knowing that First City Court hates tacking. It's about knowing the intake window in Jefferson. It's about knowing how to legally stake out a hiding defendant without breaking privacy laws.
It's the realization that justice is a very physical thing that has to be delivered by hand to the right person at the exact right time.
And if that physical delivery fails, the justice fails.
We have to give a huge thank you to Scott Frank and the team at Lafayette Process Servers, LLC. Their operational data really opened our eyes to how complex this world is.
It really is a fascinating look under the hood of the civil system.
But before we sign off, we do have to give the serious disclaimer. We've talked a lot about laws and legal codes today.
We have, and it is absolutely vital for every listener to understand this. We are analyzing operational protocols and industry standards here. We are not attorneys.
Right.
The process servers at Lafayette Process Servers are not attorneys. Nothing we said today is legal advice. If you have a legal problem, you need to call a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. We are simply discussing the logistics of law, not the practice of it.
Always an important distinction to make. But, this whole discussion leaves me with a pretty burning question.
What's that?
We all grew up believing in justice,
Right.
with a capital J, the idea that the truth will eventually come out. But listening to all of this, it kind of feels like justice is actually just administration.
That is a very provocative thought to leave with the listener. If the entire difference between winning a lawsuit and having it dismissed comes down to whether a process server knew the Tuesday intake window of a clerk in Jefferson Parish,
Yeah.
how much of our justice system is actually about truth and how much is just about paperwork?
It's a slightly terrifying thought. The truth might not set you free if the paperwork isn't time-stamped by 4 p.m.
Indeed. Procedure is the gatekeeper of truth.
Well, if you want to make sure your procedure is handled correctly, the data shows these guys have a portal where you can just upload your documents directly.
A digital shortcut for a very physical problem.
Exactly. Thank you for diving deep with us into the invisible world of process service. We'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye, everyone.